Well, welcome to another Friday night. We've been doing a series on fawning, and we've spent 7 talks really digging into what is fawning, the characteristics of fawning, some of the things that encourage fawning within our society. And hopefully it's been really helpful for you in understanding and seeing any fawning tendencies in yourself. But it always leads people to, but what's the cure? What do you do to change? How do we heal from all of this? And that's what I want to look at over the next couple talks. And I want to draw again on Dr. Ingrid Clayton and her book Fawning. I think she presents a wonderful framework when it comes to healing, or she calls it unfawning. And let me start with a quote by her. It says, "The work of unfawning is about building a new relationship to ourselves, establishing both trust and connection. We must reset our compass from an external orientation to one focused on ourselves as the authority. We learn to look within. This can be deeply uncomfortable, and it takes some serious reconditioning. We can't just dismantle old beliefs and behaviors. Healing isn't a hammer. So unfawning tends to start with self-compassion rather than stripping things away." And I think that's so important to say up front. And that is, there's not a kind of quick fix where you just, let's do all of these changes, bring out a hammer and demolish the old way and quickly reconstruct a new way. That's not possible. Secondly, you have to start with self-compassion. To be beating yourself up that you're fawning and getting down on yourself and punishing yourself, that's not going to bring about change. It's understanding that that child had to fawn in order to survive. It was a survival strategy, the only one they had. So have compassion. That's what brings about true change. Now, today, I don't want to jump right into kind of the tools connected to unfawning and changing the fawning characteristics. What I want to do is start almost like pre-tools. And it's really understanding that fawning caused you to lose yourself, to become more attuned to others than you are to yourself, to abandon yourself, to disconnect from yourself, to disconnect from your thinking, your emotions, your gut. And so there's a massive dissociation that was required because you had to stay attuned more to others than yourself in order to survive. And so what I want to look at today are tools that help you begin to be present in the present, to be present to yourself, to be present to your environment, because that's really where we have to start, is undoing the process of abandoning ourselves, of not being connected to ourselves. So the first one is learning to just orient. And this is Dr. Ingrid Clayton's term, orienting. And it basically means that most fawners have disconnected from themselves except for their brain. And so they become a walking brain. They can perform, they use their body to perform, but they're not in touch with their body. They express emotions to perform, but they're not in touch with their emotions. All of those things they've lost touch with, but they are basically a cognitive person. Their whole relationship to themselves is through their brain. And so now it's important for them to become aware of the rest of themselves. And so the starting point is not to learn a whole bunch of tools about not fawning or how to not fawn or a whole bunch of new information about fawning and healthy tools for not fawning. It's learning to reconnect with yourself and the world around you. That sounds really basic, and it is, but it's the starting point for many people who've lived lives of fawning. And so what does that mean? It means that regularly, each day, you stop and you orient yourself. You go, what's happening around me in the world? You notice. What's happening in my body? What's happening in my emotions? What's happening in my thinking? What kind of sensations am I feeling? What kind of emotions and what degree of intensity am I feeling the different emotions? You do these inventories. You orient yourself to yourself and to your environment. So let me add to this just to help you understand it even more. When a person's in survival mode, so they're in their sympathetic nervous system or their dorsal vagal nervous system, they're in fight, flight, or freeze, and fawn is that hybrid model of those two together. What basically happens in your survival mode, you're in your limbic brain, and so you don't have time to explore. You don't have time to take in additional sensory input because you are needing to survive. And so when you stop and you allow yourself to begin to just notice stuff, to take in additional signals, what you're indicating to your nervous system is that, oh, I must be safe. I can stop. I don't have to be on high alert, hypervigilant. I don't have to be tunnel vision to make sure everything is just the way I need it. I can relax and explore. And so when you do that, you choose to relax and explore, you send a message to your nervous system that begins to retrain it that you are safe and it's okay now to be attuned to yourself. You don't have to be attuned to your external environment and everybody else in order to keep safe. You are safe. Now you can begin to attune to yourself. So that leads to the second thing, which for many people is, okay, I can stop and try to orient myself, but I don't know where to go from there. I just sit there in kind of this fog of, okay, I'm stopped, I'm inactive, la, 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 now what? They don't have the little tools to connect to their emotions, to their thinking, to their body. And so the second step then is what Ingrid Clayton calls resourcing. It's learning tools that help you connect with yourself. So what's important to say at this point is this is where it's different for everybody. So the tools that work for me to help me connect to myself could be very different from the tools that work for you. So what I need to say up front is this is where you have to be willing to try different things, to experiment, to discover what works best for you. Now that could be a little scary. That can trigger you because you are trying stuff and it might fail. You might not be good at it. Don't beat yourself up. Don't see it as failure. Go, oh, okay, that doesn't work for me. Let's try something else. But this is where you have to figure out your unique set of tools that help you connect with yourself. So let me give you an example. I connect best with myself when I go for a walk in nature quietly by myself, or if I sit quietly by myself and listen to music that just touches my soul. Then I am able to really connect with myself. Or if I just sit quietly and I crochet, that's my little therapeutic hobby. I can go to a deeper place inside of myself and connect with my body, with my emotions, with my thinking. Or just reading a really good book sometimes that just takes me to a different layer of thinking and feeling. Or just some time relaxing with the dogs or doing little chores. So those work for me, but those don't necessarily work for my wife. My wife can be yoga. It can be doing artistic stuff. It can be puttering around the house organizing stuff. Those are her connection with herself times. So you have to be able to do that. I at times, when those don't work for me, I go to journaling and I just put all my thoughts on paper and I begin to write, and that somehow can take me to a deeper layer of connection with myself. So it's figuring out what tools work for you. So make it a journey, make it an experiment, but begin to try all kinds of different things that enable you to get in touch with your body and your emotions and all the sensations. Then the third thing, and this now becomes really an important piece for a fawner, and that is make space for yourself. So a fawner, to survive, made space for everybody else. They made themselves smaller. They made sure that they weren't a burden or a bother or a pain. They ignored their needs. They suppressed their needs because they saw their needs as a problem, as what was causing the other person to be upset. And so they made space for everybody else, but not for themselves. So what you're learning now is a massive shift internally where you are now giving yourself permission to take space, to have needs, that it's okay to have needs. You don't need to feel guilty about it. It's okay to take up space. It's okay to enjoy what you enjoy. It's okay to set time aside for yourself, for your needs, to take care of yourself. Now you can see right away that for many people, that's going to feel overwhelming. That's going to feel wrong. That's going to feel selfish, unloving. It's going to cause a lot of discomfort. And so that's why for many people, you got to start with small doses. Give yourself permission to take 15 minutes, half an hour, just to do what you want. And then give yourself permission to tell others what you would like, what your needs are. And that, again, is going to feel awkward, so do it in small doses. And set a boundary with somebody and expect them to respect it. That's going to feel awkward. Do that in small doses. If you go even beyond that and you get more comfortable, then you can start to take a little bit of, you got some extra money, do something, spend it on yourself to get something you would enjoy, to do something you would enjoy. And if other people that you're with in a group and they're just starting to annoy you, trigger you, they're starting to be inappropriate, give yourself permission to move away from that, to step out of that. You do not have to suppress yourself in order to accommodate them. So this is a massive internal shift, and it only happens as you start to heal the shame. And we'll come to that more. One of the things that I encourage people to do as part of this taking space and learning to listen to their body is stop regularly and listen to your body and just figure out, what does my body need right now? Does it need to just take a little break? Does it need to be alone for a little bit? Does it need to connect with somebody? Learn to listen to your body and then give yourself permission. So we talked about how this is going to be uncomfortable because it goes against how your nervous system has been operating, where you always make room for everybody else and make yourself small. So it's going against the default setting that feels very wrong and very uncomfortable. But be aware also that it will probably go against your family traditions, your family beliefs. Part of why your family got along to a degree was because you made yourself small, was because you allowed them to neglect you and abuse you. You made your needs not matter. And so now, once you start to say, my needs matter, I'm going to take up space, they're not going to like it. They're going to react to that. They're going to find a way to try to say that's inappropriate. That's selfish. That's disrupting family harmony and unity. So they're going to try to heap guilt on you that you're being bad for finally taking up space. So be prepared for that as well. So what we're really seeing is this. Fawners needed permission from those in authority to exist, to have needs, to get their needs met. Now, what I am saying is I don't need others' permission to meet my needs, to have needs. I can give myself permission, and you begin to do that. Again, another massive shift. The final thing, as we learn to become attuned to ourself, is begin to notice the internal nudges. So what I think for many people who are fawning, you're so attuned to everybody else that you're not hearing what your body's telling you. You're not hearing what your emotions telling you. And they're nudging you all the time. So just think of the sensation of thirst or hunger. Those are nudges saying there's a need here that needs to be met. So you get nudges all the time in the emotional area, in the body area, but you ignore them. You block them. You don't even hear them after a while because you have to stay totally attuned to everybody else. It's their needs that matter, not yours. And so now, part of learning to listen to your body and listen to your emotions is beginning to listen to the nudges, the nuances, the quiet whispers, the little things that are easy not to hear. It's becoming more and more self-aware, more and more attuned. Now, this is a gradual process, but here's some things that you can look for. Start to notice, what are you curious about, and what are some of the things that you feel drawn to that maybe you never even noticed before because you were just trying to survive. So maybe there's a hobby, maybe there's something you just like to do, something you'd like to learn about. Pay attention to that. Stop and really start to listen to, what are some of my dreams and passions? And again, probably those you've ignored for years, but start to really pay attention to the subtle little dreams and passions that are deep down, that have been buried for a long time. And then you get better at listening to your body, what it's telling you. You notice the subtle little messages from your body. That is key. Then your intuition. What's my gut? And you get better and better at hearing your intuition, and then your emotions as well. So let me add this little piece here. What happens for many people growing up in fawning, and we've talked about this, is they were gaslit by the narcissists of their life or the institutions of their life that said, don't trust your thinking is wrong. Don't trust your gut, you're a bad person, you're a sinner. You can't trust yourself, so you can only trust us. So you shut down your critical thinking, you shut down your emotions, your gut, all of those things. You're told that you can't trust them. That's a huge part of conditioning a fawner. So what you are doing now is basically saying, I am going to learn to trust my body again. I am going to learn to trust my emotions. They're not bad. They've always been trying to help me. They've always been trying to protect me. They've always been giving me good information. And I am going to learn to listen to them. I am going to learn not just to hear their yells, but to hear their whispers. And that is what this whole becoming attuned to yourself is all about. So that's the very beginning of unfawning. Again, I hope it helps. If it does, please like, subscribe, share. That means a lot to us. And if you're looking for more information, there's also the Time with Tim podcast, where we interview very significant guests that have a lot of helpful information around trauma. Feel free to check that out. Thanks again. Have a great day.